Good evening. Greetings from the Institute of Global Professionals. Greetings from the Institute of Global Professionals. Thank you all for joining us and staying with us till the end. Honorable knowledge seekers, today I'm your host for the evening. My name is Ananya. I'm from Bangladesh. Dear knowledge seekers, I'm proud to be associated with IGP. IGP is a social and ISO certified international educational and training institute. In the last 3 years, we have already served 35 million plus knowledge seekers from 100 plus countries. IGP is internationally recognized and globally accredited. We are connected to more than 450 plus professions and 4,500 plus organizations. Institute of Global Professionals (IGP) is a training facility for skill development which was founded in 2020 and is generating competent candidates to meet demand in the global labor market by providing professional qualifications. The Institute of Global Professionals is an educational institute that provides social work globally recognized and reputable. We serve students and community resources providing holistic social work and education. We believe that it's not effective to increase one's skill just by equating formal education. So, we provide effective training and consultation to generate proficient generation all over the world. We distribute our services locally, nationally, and internationally to student job seeker, job holder, and also for learners through respective campus locations, distance learning platform. We are an occupational and dependable institution. IGP is one of the famous online institutes from all over the world. Our vision is education is a business product. It's a part of our human rights. Based on our vision, we are trying to reach all corners of the world for free webinars, seminars, courses, award quiz competitions, mentoring, and counseling, etc. On the other side, we are also trying to offer more than 100 premium services for free, like creating our portfolio website, resume builder, cover letter, motivational letter, and wall knowledge platform for gathering general knowledge, which can upgrade all day. Kids learning games website, free courses, converter sites, and many more. We help to empower you to learn to meet their expectations and dreams and become highly skilled people. We implement several training program, webinars, and offline online courses for youth and learners by professional trainer, speakers, and coaches. Our sessions are conducted by global renowned professionals to develop all kinds of youth and to promote the education of their abilities and personalities. Spreading knowledge is crucial for the Institute of Global Professionals. We believe that knowledge is love and light and vision. So we try to understand the needs of today's generation and will serve them with good research and practice methods. We must have a genuine concern for the learners. We represent more diversity, growth, and innovation are required. To lead a session with professionalism, passion, and integrity, IGP members are committed to offering best quality services and continual improvement so that individuals who seek information can improve their skill levels and value. Before we move to the next, let me remind, don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable to us. Thank you. Before we move to the next, let me remind, don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable to us. Thank you. Moving to the next, with your continuous support, we have already completed 2,283 webinars successfully. Moving to the next, with your continuous support, we have already completed 2,283 webinars successfully. Dear IGP speakers, participants, and well wishers, at this moment, this is a very important message for you all. We changed and designed our website www.eduigp.com. On this website, we have surprises for everyone. Hope you will be benefited. We already launched our new website where you can find all our previous activities together with lots of new features, but one strong point is that without any account or logged in, you cannot enjoy our services. So create your account for once with your proper information. Note that with your proper information, you will enjoy all features. With mismatches data, you can do anything here. From now on, you have to participate in live quiz competitions on our website with a plus Slido. You have to join directly on our website. Now you can check all of our previous webinars with verified e-certificates. Now it's easier and time oriented because after this session, we will not provide you with any code for certification. You have to take part in one exam. After that, if you passed, you will receive your certificate, otherwise not. But you can take part in an exam unlimited till you pass. If you are an IGP speaker, you can download all your previous certificates, speakership certificate. If you are a host of IGP, you can download your certificate of gratitude. If you are an online quiz competition winner, you can download your certificate of participation. If you are selected for a lifetime membership, then you can download a certificate of lifetime membership easily. Besides this, if you participated in any award function which organized combined support with IGP, you can download that also. You can instantly prepare and download 18 type of visitor certificate from our website within a minute. Certificate of Global Professional Membership, Certificate of Global Influencer during the pandemic, Certificate of Active Knowledge Seeker, Certificate of Social Activist during the pandemic. Certificate of Achievement IGP Knowledge Seeking Campaign 2020, Certificate of Achievement IGP Knowledge Seeking Campaign 2021, Certificate of Achievement IGP Knowledge Seeking Campaign 2022. Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 1, Authentic Assessment in Teaching Learning. Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 2, Teaching English as a Foreign Language and Assessment. Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 3, Digital Classroom Engagement Tool. Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 4, The New Trends in Education. Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 5, Upskill in Organizational Leadership and Managerial Skills. Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 6, Trends in Innovation in Mathematics Education. Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 7, Research a Comprehensive Approach. Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 8, Art in Teaching a Special Program in the Arts. Certificate of Participation Webinar Series 9, 21st Century Tools in Teaching Mathematics. Certificate of IGP Corporate Ambassador. Certificate of IGP Campus Ambassador, which you can prepare and download within a minute. From now on, you can participate in 1000 plus international level quizzes with verified e-certificates. Teaching tips for teachers, health tips for parents, health tips for teens, gamification tools for teachers. You can join IGP Alumni. You can check out our 50 plus premium services websites for free and many more. Dear IGP well-wishers, we promised previously, but lack of our technical issues, we are late sending you on time. This is a great opportunity to collect your previous credential. We solved all issue from our website. Now you can enroll, reset password, everything. You can check your dashboard for all awareness details. It's a cordial request to you. Check all buttons and pages on our website. Surely I can say you will be benefited. Thank you. But note that without any account or login, you cannot enjoy our services. At present, we are going to start our webinar 2282 program, and program name is Linguistic Elements in Literary Writing. And our honorable speaker is Dr. Amitabh Vikram Dwivedi. And now is a very important moment for me to invite our speaker to IGP with his presentation. Hello, sir.
Hi, good morning. Good evening, sorry.
Good evening, sir. Hope you are doing great. Sir, on behalf of IGP Knowledge Seekers, wants to hear from you about you, sir. Now the stage is yours. Over to you, sir.
I'm also glad to be here.
But sir, I have a question that you are not uploaded your presentation yet.
I have not, I'm not getting the link of uploading here. I am just, um, this time I have joined from my iPad, but the link to share the presentation I am not seeing here.
Didn't you see that the present?
Mm, I can see only three links like edit my name, edit avatar, and audio, but I'm not seeing the link to upload. Should I join with any other?
Okay, sir, no issue. Then you can continue.
Just wait a minute. Uh, I'm entering from different device. Let's see if it is possible here. Mm. Again, the link to share is not coming here.
Sorry, sir.
The link to share, like in the previous one, there was a link to share the presentation, but I don't think this is not coming here.
Why?
Uh, in my other device, it is showing that you are still backstage. So I think once I am backstage, then I cannot share. Is it so?
No problem, sir. This time you can continue, but next time you but must check that if you uploaded that presentation. Okay, sir?
Okay. Okay, then let me present. So, the thing that I am going to discuss today is the linguistic elements in literary writing, and I'm sorry that this presentation is not visible. So, what are the things that I'm going to discuss in this?
Sorry, sir, for
When we
interrupting
take it
you.
to
Sir, I can see you.
you can see the presentation.
No, sir.
Okay. So,
But I
what's
can't
your?
see you also.
You can see me. Okay, you are
No,
seeing me,
sir.
but you are not seeing the presentation.
Now it's okay. No problem.
Mm, or should I join through computer? Because I don't know like why uh, this thing does not happen actually with iPad or with computer, but I do not know why it is happening here.
Sure,
Mm,
sir. If you want, then you can.
okay, then we in 5 minutes. I can I rejoin once again?
Sure, sure, sir.
Okay, in 5 minutes I will join.
Okay, sir.
Okay. hope I am audible.
Sir, can you check your headphone or other thing? I can hear some of noise from your background. Yeah, it's okay now. Thank you, sir.
Yes, now, yes, yeah. Okay, sorry for this interruption because I think there is some changes in the software as well because previously this provision of uploading the slide was not there and there was a provision for direct presentation, and I think because of that particular reason my iPad and my mobile phone was not showing this upload or the present thing. Okay, to keep things aside, let's start with this presentation. So, what is the title? Linguistic elements in literary writing. So, one thing we need to take into consideration that language is primary and literature secondary. Now, I have a valid reason for this statement. Now, if I raise a question that can you think of literature without language, then the answer is no. Because we cannot think of literature without language, irrespective of the fact whether literature is oral literature or written literature. So, the fundamental thing is language, and language forms literature. If we remove language from literature, then there is no literature. So, would it not be interesting to find out those linguistic elements that are necessary for literary writing? Now, when I say elements necessary for literary writing, that means I am indicating and emphasizing on the fact that literary writing is different from ordinary writing. So, here, this modifier adjective literary before writing calls our attention that we are not talking about day to day writing that we do, but we are talking about a special type of literary writing. So when we have a special type of literary writing, we also need to consider that that special kind of literary writing requires different of reading methodology, because literary writing deals with interpretation. We need to interpret that literary writing, and that interpretation is not easy. So our ordinary reading practices will be of less help. So what is the solution? The solution is to go for a critical reading. Now, what is the meaning of critical reading here? That we need to have a close and careful reading, because literary writing requires finer layers of finding through interpretation. And where does this word interpretation lies? So first thing is we need to read in a way we can analyze literary writing, and then we interpret it. So interpretation here means what are the meanings, what are the layers of meanings which are associated with a particular text. So a text can be a Shakespearean sonnet, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? A text can be a starting of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. And how does it start? It starts, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of great fortune must be in want of life. So it can be an ode by Alexander Pope, happy the man whose vision care, few paternal acres bound, content to breathe his native air in his own ground. So it can be anything, but it must be literary. And then after analyzing the text, after interpreting the text, we will come to an evaluation of the text, and then we provide our judgment that a text is a good text, bad text, average text, or an excellent text. So this interpretation is the basis, and this interpretation requires what it requires actually. This interpretation to find out the linguistic elements that are there in literary writing. So first thing is to finding out, and second thing is to interpret it. So interpretation must be richer. So it should not be sound ordinary. It should sound extraordinary. Because whoever is writing, whether a classical writer or a novice writer or a modernist writer, we need to understand that literature is literature because it has multiple layers of meaning. And if we cannot find those multiple layers of meaning, that means it is our failure to find out the meaning. So here you have one example of poetry, and it is by some unknown writer. We do not know who is the writer, but one thing we are sure that it looks like poetry. So we can see in some line there are three words, in some line there are four words, or in some line there is only one word. So poetry is also literary writing, but we know that poetry is not prose. Poetry is formed in, so there are lots of spaces you can find, like on the left hand side, on the right hand side. Because if we write a prose, then generally we write it in a continuous way. But here, the writer, the poet, deliberately breaks, and he chooses that okay, in one line I will write only three words, in one line I will write only one word. This is the choice that a poet has. And in literary terminology or in literary terms, this type of choice is known as poetic license. So, do you find there is no rhyme here? Because most of the modernist poetry here in today's time is not rhymed. Like when you read classical or medieval, or when you read Elizabethan Victorian, you find the rhymed couplets, or there is some end rhyme scheme. But here you will not find that. So what are the linguistic elements? If I raise a question like, can you find out the linguistic elements here in this literary writing? Then there are a couple of things that you can state. So first thing is that you can focus on the punctuation marks, that why certain punctuation marks are used. So you can see there is a comma, there is a full stop. Fine. So what is the role of these marginal elements that is there? Then linguistically speaking, the conditional sentence, like starting with if it stays, if it ends, and if it never begins. So this type of thing you can also analyze. Conditional means you need to use your commonsensical understanding that why certain expression is used. And even if I raise a question like how many times if is used, then you can say okay, three if conditional type clauses are here. And what else I can, if I raise a question what else can you see, then there is a possibility that you will reply that there is a connecting and also that is used. So this is the starting point. This is the starting point that how you need to focus on something that is very marginal, and you need to specify that thing, you need to describe that thing. So linguistic element does not mean that you need need to look for very big words, heavy words, complex construction. You can, if there are, but you can start with these marginal things as well as a starting point. So here I would like to demonstrate one of my published poem titled Love War. So you can see here in Love War, the main thing I would like to focus on that like war in love too, the state is important. Now, why I have chosen this way of writing state? Because state is an ambiguous word. And what do you mean by an ambiguous word? The meaning of an ambiguous word is that a word has more than one meaning. And here, this is a deliberate choice because I, as a poet, wanted to infuse more meaningfulness in that. So, S with capital state means nation, but with state with a small s means condition. So, here I would like to give two meaning in one word. Like war, in love too, the state is important. Then I have used colon. So you can raise a question like why colon is used sometimes, why semicolon is used sometimes. Then I would like you to focus on the fifth last line, cause it is a matter of life and death. I could have written it because, but I have chosen cause. So why a writer has selected the alternate form, not the formal form, because cause is considered informal. But you can and provide your interpretation like there might be a possibility this is the reason. To keep in mind while so these are basically the linguistic elements that you need to focus on. Now again one more example I would like to give, and this is again my published poem Octopus. It will be difficult for you to read this poem because this poem is written in the octopus form. If I ask you that what is so prominent about octopus, then you will say that octopus has tentacles. So it looks like as if text is in the tentacles form. So I am going to read it for you like octopus, your tentacles search my body. Your touch makes me stiff. My peaks lapping and licking makes me squirm. A rhythmic fall and rise. We consume, we dine together. Like true lovers, satiate our appetite. Now, if this is the text, then you have a lot of things to say because it is full of, you can say, ungrammaticalities. Poem is that you need to read the reason behind these ungrammaticalities because you will think like English is not written in this manner. But again, this is a poem. And it is the onus, it is the responsibility of the reader to find out meaningfulness in such type of text. So it's not easy to find out elements, linguistic elements in literary writing because those who are not accustomed to different type of writings, first of all they will say like it is Greek and Latin for me. I cannot read this poem. But someone who is an expert or someone who is more experienced, then that person will say okay fine, it's a fine piece of writing and how beautifully the writer executes. So these are my poems. So there are one couple of more, but I just move further. So when we talk about literary writing or when we talk about literature, then in spirit we have two broad bifurcations: prose writing and poetry writing. So this is in spirit. But when we talk about the technique, according to technique, then poetry becomes worse. So in spirit, we call it poetry. But when we talk about the technicality associated with writing poetry, then we will not call it poetry, we'll call it a verse. And there is a valid reason and etymologically supported argument that why we should call poetry a verse rather than poetry. Because as you can see, that according to technique, prose is prose, and in spirit also prose is prose. So etymologically, the meaning of etymology is to finding out the root of that particular meaning. And when we try to find out the root of these two meaning, like prose and verse, then we find then we find that the meaning of prose has been derived from a Latin word prosa, that means straightforward, direct, continuous speech. And when you read, let's say, Bacon's essay, or let's say newspaper editorial, then you will find it is straightforward, direct, and continuous. But when it comes to verse, this word has been derived from verses, and the meaning is turning, repeating its arrangement so as to form a pattern. So, what is that pattern I am talking about? So, that pattern I would like to show you again. The first poem used. So, what was the first poem that I used before my own poem? I used one poem. Uh, I think that was which slide? That was, I think, slide number 3. Yes. So the poem is like, if it stay, it is love. If it ends, so again, the repetition of the pattern. If, then again, then again, if, and the if clause and the declarative one. It is love. If it ends, then it is love, and it is poetry. So that repetition is also the that we find in the seventh slide, in this etymological information that we have. Let me move to the next slide. Yes. So verses is turning and repeating its arrangement. So in poetry, we find that type of repetition quite often. To move further, when we try to define poetry, because poetry is also a literary form, then we have different types of definition as well. So we do not have any problem with these definitions, because some people say poetry is language that always means more. Some people say that poetry is the best word in best order. Someone will say that poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. So for an uh, well said. So again, when you look at this, then written verse is only an attempt to represent the I, the true pattern which we hear. So why poetry is considered to be best understood when it is read aloud? Because when we are into reading poetry aloud, we are actually copying the pattern that the writer has in his mind. And when I said like why only 3 words in one line, why only one word in one line, that means writer wanted that this is the way it is to be read aloud. So that is one thing that we find. And because of this arrangement, because this arrangement is not grammatical, technically speaking, because sometimes we find one line has only one word, and sometimes we find lots of ungrammaticality, as the poem Octopus uh, I've shown it to you. So that type of thing has more possibilities for finer interpretation, because in literature, interpretation has lots of subjectivity, and that subjectivity is always appreciated in literature. So once you come with different interpretation, different subjectivity, with valid arguments supported with fine description, then it is always going to be appreciated. So as I said, like you need to find out literary elements and linguistic elements in literary writing. So you as an interpreter, you are reading or analyzing that form, and you are trying to find out the meaning out of it. So this is the model generally you follow when you analyze, interpret, and evaluate any literary text. And later on, you can explain it by using any literary theories. So we have literary theories, lots of literary theories. Let's say feminist theory, deconstruction, post-structuralism, Marxist theory. So you can explain that. So first you have this interpretation and evaluation of the text, and then you, if you want to explain, then that is also a possibility that you can do. But when you try to find out, let's say, the linguistic elements, and once you have this subjective interpretation, then there is a word of caution. And what is that word of caution? That every interpretation is not valid. For example, if you read a poem by William Black, Tiger Burning Bright, in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? And you interpret is this poem as a dietary problem after consuming the meat of tiger, then that type of interpretation is not valid. So I said there is a word of caution, and that word of caution is that you try to read linguistic elements with proper argument. So if the arguments are not proper, then you're finding out literary elements and giving interpretation may go wrong, because every interpretation is not a valid interpretation. And this is very finely said by Stanley Fish. And one of his famous anecdotal essay titled "Is There a Text in This Class?" he very well explained that all interpretations are not valid, because there is a possibility that one sentence, one word may lead to many interpretation, but it must pass, it must be passed through the interpretive communities. And who are the people who fall under interpretive communities? The readers, the editors, the writers, because they validate certain meaningfulness. But all meanings are not by default valid. And even if you have a new meaning, then the requirement is to provide valid argument, as did by Jacques Derrida, Bloom, or Stanley Fish. And according to M.H. Abrams, that these critics, they their meaning on reader, and the meanings were overruled by stubborn interpreters. So when we read Derrida's grammaticology, then we find it very difficult text. Why we find it very difficult? Because Derrida imposed his own meaning to the audience, and those meanings were not previously thought by the audiences. So for that particular reason, we find that Derrida is somewhat difficult, because Derrida is saying something that is not routine, something that is not regular, but with valid arguments. So we cannot discard what Derrida is saying. So that validity comes from proper argumentation that we need to think of. Now I will show you how can enrich your literary interpretation. So you have a text on your screen, and this is an excerpt from a hymn. And how it goes like, Almighty God, our heavenly Father, who of thy tender mercy didst give thine only Son Jesus Christ to suffer death upon the cross for our redemption. So if I ask you that, what do you understand by this text? Then there is a possibility that you will say God gives his only Son Jesus to save human beings, and he died for us. But do you think, as a literary person, as a student of literature, this type of interpretation is a good interpretation? No, because This type of interpretation is simply a paraphrasing. It is not at all an interpretation because you are not saying anything new. You are simply paraphrasing poetry into prose. And if I ask, like, can you provide something more, then you will say, okay, the text falls under the liturgical prayer, and the variety of English here we find is religious English, and this type of text is generally used in church service. Then again, do you think like adding this information, your interpretation has become better? No. Again, like very mundane, very routine type of interpretation. Now here comes the role of the knowledge of linguistics to finding out the linguistic elements that will enrich your interpretation. So how you can do that? So you can see that these words are highlighted. So these words are highlighted not any for the purpose of any beautification, but there is a purpose to assist you finding out the linguistic elements. So when you look at the first two words, Almighty God, and your linguistic knowledge tells you that this expression is in the vocative case. So what is this vocative case? Case is used for invocation. So when I raise a question that what is your relationship with God, then you will say my relationship with God is direct. That means you do not require a mediator. That means if you want to communicate with God, if you want to say something to God, you do not require any mediator. You can directly communicate with God. So Almighty God in vocative case has the same thing. Then who is in the relative clause? So why it is in the relative clause? Because you do not, you substitute Almighty, and you do not want to repeat God, so you have used the relative pronoun here who. But that is not that important. But this entire thing, who of thy tender mercy, and if you look at this, then you will find that this is not in regular syntax. That means it is ungrammatical. And reading ungrammaticalities is basically the rule for enriching your interpretation once you are reading poetry. So if I ask, like, how will you say this thing in regular English, the present day English as we use in our day-to-day communication, then you will say the tender mercy of whom. So here you have an inversion of syntax that is quite important. And then you can see that the F of father and S of son is also capitalized. But why? One regular argument is like the first letter of a poetry is capitalized, but that is a very routine type of argument. So here we can say it is an example of capitonym. Again, a terminology in semantics. And what is the function of this? The function is like we are not highlighting the biological relationship between father and son, but in fact we are highlighting the heavenly connection between father and son. So here father is actually God and son is again the Jesus Christ here. Then you can see that thy and thine, they are the archaic word, and digest is also archaic word. Now what do we mean by archaic word? Archaic word, that means that we have stopped using in our day-to-day communication. But why we have these words and we have not replaced these words? The first thing is because we want to have a connection with our ancestors. Because as you can see this hymn, this prayer, so this prayer is very old, ancient, and old is gold as a very popular phrase. So something that is associated with your ancestor becomes automatically precious for you. So that connection, this hymn establishes. At the same time, thy and thine here, or thy tender mercy, is again bit alliterative. Alliterative is a literary term, like repetition of the same consonant sound. Similarly, didist is again that archaic word. So we have not changed that these words. Then when you look at the words which are in yellow font, suffer, death, cross, redemption, then you find like these words are collocative. Collocation words, like they are related to each other. Cross, suffer, death, and redemption. These are the concepts which are associated with a sign which are associated with Jesus Christ. So these are the linguistic element. As I said, like you need to find out what is in the margin. And once you read something that is in the margin or something that is marginalized, then you can enrich your center. That means you can enrich your interpretation. So once we have this type of finding out linguistic elements, or once you have that knowledge of linguistics, then you can enrich your interpretation. So previously you had only one sentence to say God gives his only son Jesus to save human beings and he died for us. And it is not an interpretation but actually a paraphrasing of poetry into prose. But once you have read these linguistic elements, once you have discovered these linguistic elements and their function, then you have a lot more things to say. So what else you can say? You can say the text begins with a vocative expression that directly addresses God, by which the connection between the addressee and addressed is well established. Also, the inversion of syntax topicalizes God, but this time it is substituted by the relative pronoun who. The archaic use of the past tense auxiliary did establishes its link, indicating that the prayer is quite ancient and has been used by the ancestors as well. The capitalization is an example of capitonym, which removes it from the biological relations and establishes heavenly connection. The use of thy and thine is also in line with Old English, but it also has alliterative function. So these are the things that you can establish. There are certain other things that are the part of the slide, but I think like it will take more time. So we will discuss this more thing, that you can also look at the syntagmatic relationship. And what is that syntagmatic relationship? That is like the relationship of order, like why the writer has chosen a specific word. For example, this is the first line of Shakespearean sonnet, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Now you can cross question that why Shakespeare has used shall and not will. And if I replace shall with will, whether the meaning will change or not. Why only summer and not any other season? Because spring is also a wonderful season. So shall I compare thee to spring's morning? That is also a valid thing. Or why only lovely and temperate? So in place of temperate, you can have beautiful or calm. So that type of argument you can also raise. You can raise this question and provide your own argument that why a particular word has been chosen in place of the different word. That can also enrich your interpretation. So here another poem. As you can see here, we have, you can see like the certain spellings are archaic, like bridal double L, then is sky INE. But these original spellings are retained in the poem. They are not changed. And what is the reason behind that? So if you have some etymological dictionary where these words are there, you can try to find out what was their previous meaning, where there is a modification in the meaning, or the meaning is retained. So that type of thing you can see, like virtue has e in place of because the present day spelling is virtue. So that type of thing can also linguistic element. So here, like you can see the historical development of words, or whether they are making or enriching the poem well. Similarly, linguistics also assists you to find out the meter. For example, like if it is unstressed, stressed, then it is iambic meter. When it is stressed, unstressed, then it is trochee. When it is unstressed, unstressed, and stressed, then it is anapist and spondydactyl likewise. So that information is also provided by the linguistics, and to find out the meter. So whether it is a tetrameter, whether it is a diameter. So in a foot you have two syllables. So you can see like sweet days, so cool, so calm, so bright. So most of the lines are tetrameter, but the last line has diameter. That means you have only 2 feet here. So that way, again the linguistic element you can have. Then you can also see what is the significance of sound. So sweet days, so cool, so calm, so bright. So you can see that there is a sequence of sibilant sound, and sibilant sounds are always sweet sounding. So these are like s sound, z sound, sh sound. So this is also a linguistic element that there is no end to linguistic element. So you require a very close and careful reading and a proper knowledge. Then you can have a good interpretation, a better interpretation than the regular one. So, and then as I said, like once you have an interpretation, once you have an evaluation, then you can go for the explanation from a theoretical perspective. So like you can apply Wordsworthian perspective, like the poetry is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling. But whether when the words are carefully chosen by the writer, whether this statement is correct, because spontaneous means like you are not thinking about the words carefully and simply you are writing whatever comes to your mind, and that makes the entire poem sometimes autobiographical. And autobiography is not considered a good type of literary piece. So whether this you want to context Wordsworthian definition of poetry, or whether you want to apply the T.S. Eliot's definition that poetry is not a turning loose of emotion but an escape from emotion. It is not the expression of personality but an escape from personality. That means like any piece of writing is well contemplated by the writer, unlike it is spontaneous and whatever comes to my mind and I'm writing it. So that means like you have layers of editing. Like I write something, then I again change it, then I change comma into semicolon, sometimes semicolon into colon, sometimes I put full stop, sometimes I remove it. Particularly when you are writing poetry. So these type of things you can context and you can say. So this is from my side, and I have tried to throw some light on the linguistic elements that are there in literary writing. So if you have any then you can raise, and I will be happy to answer that. Over to
Thank you so much, sir, for your rich content presentation, which can impact our knowledge seekers surely. After your presentation, I hope our knowledge seekers can learn something new, which was our only intention. Learn and grow together, IGP knowledge seekers. Once again, thank you so much, dear sir, for your presentation. Now, sir, it's time for our questionnaire session, which is the more valuable part of our regular webinar. Honorable sir, please stay with us after a short video. We will be back in our session part 2, which is the questionnaire part. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After questionnaire, we have webinar certification and online quiz competition. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After questionnaire, we have webinar certification and online quiz competition. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After questionnaire, we have webinar certification and online quiz competition. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After questionnaire, we have webinar certification and online quiz competition. Once again, thank you so much, sir, Honorable Sir, for your time in IGP. We have learned a lot from you with new topics. It will add some value to day activity along with our academic and professional growth. Honorable Sir, hope to see you again with a new topic and a new date. Thank you, sir. Take care.
Thank you.
Honorable Sir, before you move to the next webinar certification process, if you want to leave this studio, you can, sir. IGP Knowledge Seekers is time for the webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we will start our webinar certification. After webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification. IGP Knowledge Seekers is time for the webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we will start our webinar certification. After webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification. Visit www.eduigp.com. Please make sure your presence on our website. Find your running session and get enrolled. After watching or completing part 1 video session, click mark as complete. Moving to the next, which is the learning test quiz. Passing mark is 80%. If pass, back to the course again to download your certificate. If failed, retake the quiz. Download your certificate in PDF or JPG. For your attention, I'm going to share the procedure again. Visit www.eduigp.com. Please make sure your presence on our website. Sign up or sign in. Find a running session and get enrolled. After watching or completing part 1 video session, click mark as complete. Moving to the next, which is the learning test quiz. Passing mark is 80%. If passed, back to the course again to download your certificate. If failed, to retake the quiz. Download your certificate in PDF or JPG. Dear IGP Knowledge Seekers, it's time for the most engaging part of this webinar, which is an online quiz competition, which is our regular webinar activity. We changed a few process for online live quiz competition. Note that after live, no one can participate. Now time for the online quiz competition. To join the online quiz competition properly, please follow my instruction carefully. Now time for the online quiz competition. To join the online quiz competition properly, please follow my instruction carefully. Visit www.eduigp.com and sign up or sign in. Without this, you cannot join live quiz competitions anymore. Browse the live quizzes button or give a link. Find the session name and join with your locked website or user account. Click join and wait for a few minutes for others to join. Enjoy an online live quiz competition. After a short video, we will start our quiz session. So our first question is figurative language and literary elements are important in writing. True or false? Option A is correct, and 94% people are correct. And our next question is a literary or linguistic technique that produces a specific effect in writing, imagery or literary devices. Option A or option B? Option B is correct, and 88% people are correct. And our next question is why do authors use literary element in their writing? Because they want to, or they to keep the reader interested in reading. Option A or option B? Option B is correct, and 100% people are correct. And our next question is literary elements are found in which type of writing, stories or narratives? Option A or option B? Option B is correct, and 76% people are correct. And our next question is Mikhail Arstibashev uses which of these literary elements in his writing, imagery or symbolism or smiley or metaphors? Option A or option B? Option A is correct, and 59% people are correct. And our next question is literary elements are techniques that authors use in their writing, true or false? Option A or option B? Option B is correct, and 0% people are correct. And our next question is how often does Poe use literary elements in his writing, at the beginning or throughout? Option A, option B? Option B is correct, and 0% people are correct. And our next question is how many literary elements or writing strategies should you include in the part 3, 2 or 1? Option A or option B? Option B is correct, and 6% people are correct. And our next question is literary elements are essential components used in the creation and analysis of writings. True or false? Option A or option B? Option A is correct, and 94% people are correct. And our next question is what literary elements will you be writing about in this essay? Theme and plot, or character traits and plot? Option A or option B? Option B is correct, and 47% people are correct. Congratulations to our even online quiz competitions in our top 10. Congratulations again. We will take a few minutes to finalize the result, and after that, we will issue our online quiz competition certificates on our website and official Facebook page, Institute of Global Professionals. Congratulations to our even online quiz competition in our top 10. Congratulations again. We will take a few minutes to finalize the result, and after that, we will issue our online quiz competition certificates on our website and official Facebook page, Institute of Global Professionals. At the end of our session, we can say properly feed your skills. Never stops learning because life never stops teaching us. Be happy and stay safe. See you again and again. We want your participation in every program. If you want to live a happy life, tied to a goal, not to people or things. Albert Einstein. Before I say or hit the end live button again, wants to thank all IGP knowledge seekers for your active participation as always. See you in the next session. Thank you.